All right, so have you ever wanted to start multiple food businesses, like selling coffee, spices, chocolates, but you want to find out if you can start multiple businesses under one LLC and doing it as a doing business as? Are there pros and cons to this? Well, there actually is, and we're going to dive into that question right now. All right, so welcome back to Marketing Food Online. It is Damien, and I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I want to cover a fantastic question. This was a question that I've been asked multiple times, and I hadn't had a chance to actually sit down and do a video, but I wanted to dive into this question about creating multiple food businesses under one LLC. And I recently got another question from a subscriber who asked it again, so I wanted to sit down and cover how this works. Now, really quick disclaimer, I am not an accountant, nor am I a lawyer. So after I give you this information, please do your own due diligence and look into it even further, or check with your specific accountant that you work with. Or if you actually have a lawyer, ask them about these different questions and different topics and the pros and cons of what I'm about to cover. So if you're new to Marketing Food Online, welcome. We actually have over 800 videos to help you get your food business started. I am a food entrepreneur myself. My wife and I have been online for a little over 12 years now, and we offer a ton of useful information and resources from experiences that we have accumulated over a decade worth of doing this. So hit that subscribe button and definitely take a look at the multitudes of resources we have available, and our website, marketingfoodonline.com, where we have blogs and tons of services to help you actually incorporate, create logos, packaging. There is a numerous amount of extra resources as well. So let's dive into this question. So the question is this: if you want to create a multitude of different food businesses, how can you go about doing that? Like if you wanted to have a coffee business that sold coffee, if you had a business where you wanted to sell chocolates, and maybe you're interested in starting a spice business, but you're thinking to yourself, well, do I put all of these under one LLC, or can I do them as multiple doing businesses as under that one LLC? Okay. Now there's some pros and cons, obviously, to everything in the business world. There's always ups and downs. So I'm going to cover a few of those different types of businesses and how you can form them, but also what are the pros and cons once you actually do them? And is it even beneficial to do it? Or should you just create one LLC and just simply offer a multitude of food products? Okay, so let's dive into that question and let's see what we can find. All right, so let me go over some scenarios so you can understand how this would work and some of the risk factors that would actually come into play. So let's say that you have an idea for a coffee company, okay? Like I mentioned before in the introduction, and you have an idea to sell chocolate. And you're thinking, you know what? I wanted to separate the two and do them as doing business as a DBA, as it's known, under one specific LLC, okay? Now, can you do this? Yes, you can. Now, the one thing that's really a challenge is separating the liability. When it comes to doing multiple businesses as DBAs under a LLC, if you have a issue, if there happens to be a liability or issue that pops up or a legal issue that pops up for your coffee business, the problem is if you have a DBA for the chocolate and DBA for the coffee business, the two of them under the same single LLC could potentially be liable. You could be sued not only for that specific issue under the coffee business, but the chocolate business could actually have risk as well, and both of them could basically be liable, okay? Or the person who happens to be suing you or having issues with you legally could go after the entire company and encompasses all of those different DBAs. Now, that could be an issue. That could actually happen, okay? Normally under an LLC, when you have a multitude of different types of food businesses that's registered as DBAs, they kind of pretty much open up the liability and the risk factor for all of them. It's not just a singular one. So if Damien had an issue with John's coffee business and I took him to court, I got allergic reaction and I ended up suing them for some issue, what have you. Not only could I go after the coffee business, but I could also go after the chocolate business because it's actually under the same LLC. Just because it is a DBA and the name is separately different, doesn't mean that the liability factor has been waived from the two of them, okay? So that is a potential issue that could pop up, and that's one of the reasons why offering multitudes of DBAs under one LLC doesn't really give you a huge amount of legal protection. Okay, so then if that's the case, Damien, what if I just open up an LLC for each individual company? That deviates and diverts the risk to only that specific LLC. So if I have a coffee business, open an LLC for the coffee business. Do I have a chocolate business? Yes, open it as a LLC, another chocolate. Now, there's benefits and pros and cons to both of those. The drawback to having a multitude of LLCs is that they have to be filed individually every year as LLCs. Now, your accountant could potentially either combine fees or, basically the maintenance fees for them as well is more than one, because you're dealing with more than one LLC entity. Okay, so your actual accountant could end up, when you're filing them, charge you for every single LLC as a business fee. Okay, so the cost to operate them, the maintenance fees could be much higher, not necessarily lower, but as far as the risk factor goes, they're all separated. Because again, go back to the example, if I had an issue with the coffee business, I could only go after that LLC for the coffee business. I can't do anything else with the other ones. Okay, so the liability is kind of divided up. If you want to go that route, you could say that it's divided, because you're not going to be able to go after the chocolate business because it has nothing to do with it. Now, with that being said, though, you need to also keep in mind, so once you've established these each individual LLCs, okay, all of the liability, all of the responsibilities, everything falls under that each individual LLC. Okay, so that's going to actually help you as far as ensuring that any debts or liabilities or assets of each of the LLCs are completely different. They're not connected in any way, shape, or form to each other. Okay, so doing a DBA may sound like a good idea, but as far as the legalities, and let me tell you something, a little side note here. When it comes to food businesses, I don't want to say that there's any more liability or less liability, but here's the tendency with food businesses: you may have a more liability issue coming up, because food is something that obviously people eat and consume. There could be allergic reactions. There could be something that's expired. If something's not cooked properly, that is a issue. Okay, obviously real estate businesses, or let's say if you're creating laptops and computers, liability is obviously much different. Nobody's eating a computer. Okay, so when it comes to food, there is a little bit of a higher sense of liability, a little bit more stress in regards to people eating food that you're actually making or reselling. So when it comes to doing this, in my opinion, to offer you advice, I would say you should create LLCs, different LLCs for each one of them. Now, over the span of the time of each year, as you begin to file these and you've got other expenses, because each one of these LLCs will be considered in each individual business, that's going to be a little more costly, but that shouldn't defer you from the idea that you should start each one separately, because that's going to separate liability, which is much more expensive and could cost you much more if you're going the route of having different food businesses under one LLC. Okay, so DBAs may sound great, but you have to weigh the liability factor and the issue of, hey, I've just created a multitude of food products. How can I actually keep them under one specific LLC? Well, you're going to incur a lot of liability, which could take all of them down. Separating them and making LLCs for each one is kind of it makes a little more sense, and it's going to separate that liability factor. Now, again, whatever works for you, you should check into it more. Do a little bit more due diligence, research it a little bit more, even check with either like I said, your attorney or your accountant. See what is the best fit for you. But just understand the way that you can structure this and set it up. DBAs are not necessarily liability free, and they can end up actually affecting each one as they are separated under LLCs. So I hope that kind of explains and gives you pointers on how this could work and benefits you. Okay, some of the pros and cons are obviously financial ones and risk and liability ones. If you have any questions about DBAs or LLCs, let me know down below. And another really quick side note. So I wanted to let you guys know as well, if you're forming a business and you haven't created your LLC or your entity just yet, did you know you can actually incorporate a business in Nevada and live in another state? Which is actually very interesting. Something I was going to do a whole video on, but I wanted to drop this note really quick at the end of the video. In Nevada, once you create and establish your entity, there are no state tax, no corporate income tax, and no personal income tax. This is something that's really interesting. Nevada, and actually I believe it's Delaware, are the two states in the U.S. where you can actually live and occupy and run your business in another state. Now, to learn more about this, definitely check down in the description section below the video. I've got a little link there for a company that's actually called Nevada Corporate Headquarters. It's an incorporation company out of Nevada that does this. Okay, read up a little bit up on it. You can check their website out. They have all the information on how this actually works. As far as lawsuits and asset protections, they actually state on their website that you can never be held personally liable for damages or lawsuits caused by your business. It offers the no state tax. It also has corporate income tax benefits, even personal income taxes. So you definitely want to check it out. And if you happen to move to another state and you were opening a business there, of course you still have to file business licensing and such. But I'm just talking about where you're going to incorporate the actual business entity. Check out that link for Nevada Corporate Headquarters, and they've got a ton of resources to help you understand how this works. So that being said, I'll wrap it up, and I hope this was truly informative, and I'll talk to you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching Marketing Food Online. And if you are looking to create your own food truck, start a home-based food business under the cottage food law, franchise a food operation, start a packaged food business, private label your own food product, sell on Amazon, get your own online store, or sell food online, remember to subscribe and check out these videos for more resources. Take care.